This morning, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is holding their annual Capital Markets Summit, focusing on what they're calling the 10 truths of the financial system. And Tom Donahue is CEO of the U.S. Chamber. He joins us now with more on the message coming from the Chamber. We can't wait for the 10 truths. And as Andrew always says, we could either do reverse Letterman or, well, he's leaving, isn't he?
Letterman is leaving, yeah.
Good morning, Tom. And just looking over this, every time there's a crisis, right when we're dealing with it, everybody always says we got to make sure we don't overshoot and err on the other side. Do you think there's enough evidence to say at this point that maybe, at least in certain areas, there was some overshoot that's actually hurting the people it was designed to protect?
Of course there is, and that's not a criticism. It's a reality that when large numbers of regulators from different regulating agencies get together to achieve an objective, they're running not only together but against each other, and it creates a huge problem for those that are trying to implement it and achieve the objectives that have been stated. In this instance, everybody got together and said what we have to do is to protect the consumer. And we're doing a good job on that. We're doing such a good job on that. We're denying the consumer the amount of capital and the banking systems that the consumer needs to be able to run their family affairs and to run their small businesses or to run their other activities. And if you went into a regional bank, which we all know about, you pick the city, you'll find 5 to 7 regulators living in that bank. What they're telling those bankers is often in conflict. And we just have to all slow down a minute, take a deep breath, and figure out what we're trying to do and how successful are we being.
We're also, the Chamber has a lot on its shoulders. I wouldn't even just talk about the financial system either, Tom. We've got some type of weird new normal where corporate profits are at record highs, but we can't get out of our own way in terms of GDP at 2%. And, employment, while it's improved, there's still a lot of people that would like a raise and a lot of people that would like to probably have more work. So there's something in the regulatory environment across the board in this country that should be addressed that no one seems to really want to address at this point. It's just about, I don't know, raising the minimum wage or some other type of redistribution.
There's a fascinating issue about the regulatory process. Just remember, by the way, all the regulation we pass, we add on top of the regulation we've had since Christopher Columbus came here. And we never take any of it away. We just add it. But if you look at the employment that has taken place in the United States in the last few years, a good deal of it was because of energy and some of it because of health care. But the real employment across the board, the jobs that you see being added in established companies are not to create new products, not to drive economic growth. They're there to meet and to manage all of the regulatory additions put on the companies. We just have to pause for a minute. We're not going to get rid of regulation. We need regulation. We support regulation, but it's got to be common sense. It has to work, and it can't get rid of risk. If the objective, which some people have, is to get rid of all risk, then there can be no reward, there can be no growth in the markets, there can be no expansion in your pension funds. What we need to do is get rid of the old stuff, adjust the new stuff, and understand there's no route to perfection. What we need is regulation that will serve us well as markets change at home and abroad.
Tom, the budget wrangling that we're having right now, I've also said that business would probably say go with the earned income, do that, do this, but in return, there's a couple of things that we can agree on that we'd like to do, but this is a poisonous environment we're in right now. Isn't there just a couple of things you'd settle for and you'd make concessions to support some of the stuff that the Democrats want?
I'm going to tell you that I'm really very excited and very pleased about the budget wrangling. And it's because we haven't been doing budgets in the Senate for many years. It's because budgets in the House were single-party budgets. We're having a serious conversation about the real predictable crisis in this country. What do we do 8, 9 years ago from now on entitlement cost? And the members of the body, both the House and the Senate, are beginning to look at this. What is the reality about defense spending? We all look around the world and we know we're not going to get away with what we budgeted, and people are looking for a way to do this in an orderly process. I think we're trying to control cost. We're trying not to run up deficits with spending that we don't need. And I want to say to both the House and the Senate, to both Democrats and Republicans, this is the beginning of a process that people are getting together because they realize this budget issue is getting bigger than all of us. Just an example of the cooperation that are going on in the House and will follow in the Senate. We're finally going to get a doc fix on paying the doctors under Medicare and Medicaid. We've been hiding it under the porch for all these years because we didn't want to count it. I think we're making progress, and I take my hat off to both parties.
Tom, I have a couple of experts, actually, from the other side here. I have Leisman and Andrew here, and I would even say both of you guys probably have a few things in Dodd-Frank or in the regulatory overshoot that even you would say could be fixed to help.
Absolutely.
Okay, and maybe you could tell Tom, and then he can talk with his people, and maybe all the sides can come together here on this. What would you fix, Steve?
Tom hardly needs my advice, but I have said on this show and other places, Tom's a very smart guy.
It's just we can get all the sides together here with you two
Joe,
here.
I have said I think they've gone too far.
What should they pull back on?
I think they need to get, first of all, I don't think the Federal Reserve should be telling banks what their capital distribution should be, what their dividends. I think that's like hand-holding. That's not capitalism. I hate that. And I also think that they need to ease back on residential mortgage restrictions. I think they're push me, pull you when it comes to mortgage lending. They're telling them, go out there and lend. On the other hand, there are restrictions on there.
Andrew?
I'm in the same place. I think the way the stress tests are set up don't make sense anymore. I think the hand-holding on the dividends don't make sense. On the mortgage restrictions, I think that doesn't make sense. I don't want to say I want to lower capital requirements, but I might, in certain cases, change the mix of how they're valued.
You taking notes, Tom? Because these are things you can appeal to the people you're arguing with now that you know what they're thinking.
Yeah, let me just ask everybody there one question. One of the things you raised, which I'm very focused on, is the role of the Fed. We have for years defended the role of the Fed in monetary policy and in adjusting and reacting to the financial crises in this country and around the world. One of my concerns is the Fed quietly is becoming the regulator of power of the American financial system and reaching out and trying to roll everybody into their purview. And this is a mistake. It will detract, I believe, from the strength of the Fed as the leader of monetary policy in the world, and it will create extraordinary problems for them on the Hill and in other places that they don't need. They should think carefully about their next steps.
Tom, I would respond that I think part of what the Fed is doing is at the behest of Congress. Both Congress is out there complaining about the Fed, but also has charged them with this systemically important financial institution charge, and this wraps in and has wrapped in some of the insurance companies. And you'll recall there was a certain insurance company that was at the center of the financial crisis, and that's one of the reasons why the Fed is wrapping these in. It's a charge from Congress. If Congress doesn't want this to happen, I believe they have the ability to legislate that away.
I do believe that Congress and the Dodd-Frank rules gave the Fed more encouragement. They took that encouragement and reached out far and wide to gather that and everything else they could add to it. Big mistake.
Does it?
If Tom,
we gotta go. We gotta run.
Okay.
I
just want to say, just send me a note about where the Fed is overstretched. I'd report that story.
Okay. Does the chamber have a favorite Republican candidate, declared or undeclared, Tom?
We have wonderful favorite Republican candidates in both the House and the Senate. We don't spend a lot of time on the presidential races. We don't go in them. We do get into presidential policy. We will be very engaged in what they're proposing. I will tell you, there's probably 20 people that get up every morning and walk into the bathroom and say, "Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Madam President." It's going to be a heck of a time.
It will. All right, Tom Donahue, thank you. And good luck with your 10. You're not really Moses with 10 commandments. These are guidelines, right?
No,
are you going to dress up?
But remember, Moses dropped the other tablet on the way down the hill.
That's right. That's right.
Both of them.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, check out the shares of Kraft Food right now. Jim Cramer is going to join us in just a bit with his take on the deal of the morning. We'll be right back.